the news media photographers or something. But obviously Denver's a hot spot for different things happening with contactees, with this ballot initiative, with this concert and other things going on. So, yeah, intention is powerful, and my intention is to have something come out of this, some connection. So if there's anything you or anybody else can do, that would be great.
Yeah, I might be able to help you out on that. Robbie Williams was here, and he's basically like the Beatles over there in the UK. He's like the number one pop guy.
Yeah, well, he would probably know how to reach Matt. I mean,
yeah, he spent about almost 3 weeks here. He came once and just had a major experience. Got to see all kinds of ships and experienced the energy here. And he had a little bit of a writer's block, and then he came here and just everything blew wide open for him. And
wow, great!
And he wrote some songs about the mountain here, which a lot of the ships come out of. That has a long history of activity in the area here. Kenneth Arnold actually lost sight of the ships when they descended on the western slopes of Mount Adams, so there's a long, long history of activity in the area. But I might be able to see what I can do. There is a possibility that I might be able to find a way to contact him.
That'd be great. I appreciate that. I think up in Washington State, you're quite big on opposing genetically engineered food, and I've heard that extraterrestrial civilizations are too. And I was the one that put together the ballot initiative, wrote the ballot initiative for Oregon to require labeling of genetically engineered food back in 2002. And Paul McCartney was doing a concert in Portland, and so I was trying to get word out to see if he could say something. And then the concert came and went, and there was no news. I thought, okay, it's just one of 100 ideas that didn't work. But about a week later, he called my colleague in Oregon and said, "Hi, this is Paul McCartney. I heard you were doing this thing, and I'd like to help." So right on the spot, they just taped a 30-second radio ad, and then this guy, my colleague, had some money, and he bought airtime on the radio, and that became world news that he was involved. So, I'm just sending this out all over, and you never know where it's going to go or what's going to come back. But I feel confident that it's a good thing to do, just to make the request and have the intention.
Yeah, I just went down to L.A. to a conference down there at the Indian Springs Ranch in Sylmar, and it was strange because I ended up meeting somebody that was one of Clint Eastwood's, I guess, directors, and did an interview with her. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but maybe something will come out of that. But when they saw what was happening here, they were just blown away, because there's so much more than just UFOs happening here. We're like an interdimensional portal, and higher dimensional beings are actually manifesting, and we're getting them on film. So it's beyond, we're having. I'm sure you understand that, but we're having Kuan Yin appear here, and we have this monk, this Buddhist. He's not really Buddhist. He's more of a Taoist, but he's a Japanese monk that does 21-day retreats in a cave and things like that. No food or water, and he can see very clearly all these manifestations, and he actually films them with his cell phone.
Really? Huh.
So we're having not just the ships and these fifth and sixth dimensional beings appear. We're having the archetypes like Kuan Yin and Mary and all these other beings appear here and getting actually photographs of them, along with just incredible UFO footage.
Wow, that really is incredible.
Yeah, but I think it's like we're going so far out there, if you're trying to just talk to mainstream America, I think they'd have a hard time with the expansiveness of what's really happening, in the field of ufology, you might say.
Well, James, I'd give you and everyone else encouragement to give the general public the benefit of the doubt. And the reason I say that is because when we were collecting signatures in the petition drive to put this on the ballot, over 10,000 people signed it. And all day long, wherever we were, people would just come up to us here and there and say, just right off the street, and they would start sharing their experience of the kind of things you're talking about. And I give talks to civic clubs, and the title is, Are You Ready to Meet and Greet People from Other Planets? And I've given this to Rotary Clubs, Lions Club, Kiwanis Club, Optimus Club, and they love the lecture, and always somebody comes up to me afterwards and shares their experience. They don't tell all the members of the club, but they share that they either knew somebody in Roswell that saw the craft and the bodies, were in an underground military base and saw some craft, or they just reaffirming somehow maybe they had contact. And just recently, on the 8-page voter education newspaper that we're creating for this ballot initiative, on the first page there are 2 key endorsements, and one is by a woman named Veronica Barella, and she's a very well-known Latino community leader, and in Denver, Latinos represent about 30% of the eligible voters, eligible voters. So she's one of them, and she was telling her stories of UFO sightings, a couple of relatives that have been on craft, that sort of thing. Then the other person is a former Denver police officer. His name is Michael Newell, and he is one intense guy. I mean, not anymore. He's quite mellow, but he was in Vietnam, and he was called a real-life equalizer by this TV show, 48 Hours, and he was called an everyday hero by a local ABC TV affiliate TV station. So he had contact with 5 different extraterrestrial races within a 24-hour period, which included September 11th of 2001. That's where he was and who he was with on that day, and this was in southern Colorado. And these are about as mainstream people as you can get, in the Denver community, and yet they have these contacts and these experiences. And what's ironic and what's really very fascinating is that there was a time in Denver where there was the Chicano movement, and they were gaining their identity and trying to, like civil rights for Chicanos. That's what they called the Latinos at that time. But it was quite violent, very turbulent in Denver. And these 2 people were basically on opposite sides of the battle. And when I mean battle, I mean literal gun battles where, M16 rifles were being shot at the police and they were firing back. And this would go on for hours in different neighborhoods of Denver. Wow. They were on opposite sides. And now they're on board. They're on the same page. They're agreeing that Initiative 300 is important and that they're encouraging people to pass it.
Yeah, it's amazing, with just a few colors of beings here on Earth. What are we going to do if one shows up that's orange or pink or green or something, or doesn't look like us, might be a different archetype. It is. It's time that, we have to kind of get our act together here and start working together in harmony, if we're going to be dealing with beings from other off-world, existences.
Right. Well, what's going to happen. It's going to be a fashion trend. The kids in school, they're going to turn green and orange and have whatever clothing there is. And I mean, it's just a far out one of those things that, okay, this is new, fresh. We haven't done this before. We haven't looked like this before. But come on, let's, we'll dress like them. And I think all this idea of panic and all that of the people, and that's why it's been kept secret, I don't believe that at all. I think the politicians, bureaucrats are more worried that there's going to be a citizens' uprising when we find out what's been going on, what's been kept from us. It'll be more anger than panic and fear. Exactly.
I know with the Roswell incident, basically my relatives were involved in it. My dad came from New Mexico, and my grandparents, my granddad actually owned the hardware store there and sold the Swensons a lot of their equipment.
Wow.
And my grandmother knew the first responders, the sheriffs, and she told me all about it. And she said that they were white as a sheet. They couldn't even hold a cup of coffee in their hands, and they were shaking. And they said that we're not alone. And she said these are good old boys, honest as the day is long. And she said they were shaken up, So I have no doubt about Roswell and other things. And I also know that we've gleaned all this technology from those crash sites and crash retrievals and have been using it and are keeping it, from the people. And we could clean up our environment. We could have fuelless energy, counter-gravity, anti-gravity, everything. But it's been withheld due to the powers that be.
Right. It's a political problem. It's not a sociological, psychological, economic, or technological problem. It's really just politics. Even now, just with regular, human-invented clean energy technologies, people start worrying about job losses within the fossil fuel industry. Because if that's the people that got certain politicians into office, well, those politicians are going to, keep looking after those interests. So somehow, though, it has to reach a critical mass where we, the people, just say, hey, enough is enough. I mean, we've got relatives and friends dying of cancer, and yet Don Phillips, former Skunkworks engineer, has claimed that, yeah, they had a scanner that could cure cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually, because of that information, a hip-hop music video was created for the campaign called Pink UFO. And the theme was about hidden technology, cures for cancer, and using that color of pink to represent cancer awareness, which always comes up. Actually, the Race for the Cure, the cancer awareness, is this Sunday in Denver. And so, at some point, again, as a mass of humanity, we have to say, we're onto this. We know what's going on. Just either let us have the information or get out of the way. We'll take charge of it. That's essentially what this ballot initiative is in Denver. It's a citizens' task force to pursue and achieve what the federal government should have done decades ago, and just doesn't have, the hormones to get it done.
I know we have that technology because I've held it in my hand, and I know who has it. And I know some physicists that have recreated a lot of this technology, and it's phenomenal. And I did actually try to help them get it out, and I have footage of these machines running, operating. Walter Rosenthal, who was the rocket man, with NASA, was there in a room, and we took all these, what do you call them? I don't know. I keep forgetting the name of these things, but we plugged in about several of these sticks together, and plugged in generators, drills, all these things to this thing, and ran it off this little tiny unit. And we just kept plugging more and more things into it, and it loved to load. We couldn't short it out or do anything with it, and you could hold it in your hand. It was just amazing. It would power a house, a car, anything. But in trying to help this guy get it out, we experienced some pretty extreme measures, you might say, to where cars were stolen, labs were blown up, people were threatened, families threatened, just some real nasty things. So something has to be done, and maybe this is it. There needs to be an avenue with some backup and some people in it that are going to enforce it to get these technologies out, because right now there's no protection or no real avenue to get some of these technologies out.
Well, maybe this fellow Mike Newell can help, because one of the things he does is consult on security management. He's a security consultant, and he's a national expert on counterterrorism and stalking and conflict management. So, we might start drawing in some people who just happen to have that particular expertise and are also sympathetic to this whole movement of disclosure, getting these suppressed technologies out.
Yeah, I've lost a couple friends already that had that technology, and it's kind of sad, but I think it's perfect timing now, because with the Gulf oil spill and what they did to the coast and what's still going on down there that they're covering up is going to be the fuel to shift, the consensus into, hey, we can't keep doing this anymore. We need to start moving away from this. And you would think the wars would have done that too, the oil wars we've been dealing with, but so far that wasn't enough. But I know with this Gulf oil disaster, I think that might be what we need to finally